A security guard took 3 bullets to save a billionaire's wife, a stranger he'd never met. He was just trying to survive, raising his daughter alone in poverty. But when that wealthy couple discovered his broken life and the little girl waiting at home, everything changed forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Sarah Chin walked quickly toward her car, her heels clicking against the concrete floor. She was the wife of Richard Chin, the most powerful business tycoon in the city. Her diamond earrings sparkled under the dim lights. Her designer dress cost more than most people earned in a year. She never saw the 2 men following her. "Mrs. Chin," a cold voice called out. "Your husband owes us money. Lots of money." Sarah froze, her hand on her car door. She turned slowly to see 2 masked men blocking her path. One held a knife. The other had a gun. "My husband will pay whatever you want," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just let me go." "Too late for that," the man with the gun said. "He needed to pay months ago. Now we send him a message." The gun rose, pointing at Sarah's heart. Then everything happened at once. A figure rushed out from behind a concrete pillar. It was a man in a simple security guard uniform, running at full speed. "No," he shouted. The gunman fired. "What? Twice? 3 times?" The security guard threw himself in front of Sarah, his body taking all 3 bullets. He collapsed to the ground, blood spreading across his chest. Sarah screamed. The 2 attackers ran, their footsteps echoing through the garage. Within seconds they disappeared into the night. Sarah fell to her knees beside the fallen guard. His name tag read, Daniel Martinez. His eyes were closing, his breathing shallow. "Why?" Sarah cried, pressing her hands against his wounds. "Why did you do that?" Daniel's lips moved. His voice was barely a whisper. "My daughter, Maya, tell her daddy loves her." Then his eyes closed. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. Those 7 minutes felt like 7 hours as Sarah held Daniel's hand, begging him to stay alive. She had never seen this man before. He was just a security guard in the parking garage. Nobody special. Nobody important. But he had given his life to save hers. At Memorial Hospital, the doctors worked frantically to save Daniel. Sarah sat in the waiting room, still covered in his blood, shaking uncontrollably. Her husband Richard arrived 20 minutes later, surrounded by bodyguards and lawyers. "Sarah, thank God you're safe," Richard said, embracing her. "I'll find who did this. They'll pay for threatening you." "A man saved me," Sarah whispered. "A security guard. He took the bullets meant for me. Richard, he has a daughter." He was talking about his daughter as he lay dying. Richard's face hardened. "I'll make sure his family is taken care of. Whatever they need." But Sarah barely heard him. She was thinking about Daniel's last words. Tell her daddy loves her. What kind of man thinks of his child while dying? What kind of father sacrifices everything for a stranger? Dr. Rodriguez emerged from surgery 3 hours later. His face was grave. "Mr. and Mrs. Chin? The guard, Daniel Martinez, is alive." "Barely. 2 bullets hit his chest, 1 hit his shoulder. We removed them all, but he's lost a lot of blood. The next 24 hours will tell us if he survives. Even if he does, the damage is severe. He may never work again." "Do everything possible," Richard ordered. "Money is no object. Save him." Sarah stood up. "Doctor, you mentioned a daughter. Does she know?" Dr. Rodriguez nodded sadly. "Child Services brought her. She's in the children's waiting area. 8 years old. No other family that we can find." Sarah's heart broke. "I need to see her." The little girl sat alone on a plastic chair. She had dark curly hair and her father's kind eyes. She wore a faded school uniform and clutched a worn teddy bear. When she saw Sarah approaching, she stood up. "Are you the lady my daddy saved?" the girl asked quietly. Sarah knelt down, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Maya Martinez." "Is my daddy going to die?" The innocent question, asked with such fear, shattered Sarah's heart. "The doctors are doing everything they can. Your daddy is very strong. He's a hero." "He's always been my hero," Maya whispered. "It's just been me and him since Mommy died. He works so hard. Sometimes he's so tired, but he always makes me breakfast and helps me with homework. He never misses reading me a bedtime story." Sarah pulled the little girl into a hug as Maya began to cry. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Over the next few days, Sarah learned Daniel's story. And with each detail, her heart broke a little more. Daniel Martinez was 32 years old. His wife, Maria, had died 3 years ago in a car accident. She had been a nurse working a night shift when a drunk driver hit her car. Maria died instantly. Daniel had been left alone with 5-year-old Maya and crushing grief. He had been working as a construction worker, but after Maria's death, he needed a job with more stable hours. He became a security guard at the parking garage. The pay was terrible, barely enough to cover rent and food. But the hours meant he could drop Maya at school and pick her up every day. Daniel worked 60 hours a week. He never took days off. He couldn't afford to. Every penny went to taking care of Maya. He wore the same 3 shirts in rotation. He ate rice and beans most days so Maya could have proper meals. He lived in a tiny apartment in the worst part of the city because it was all he could afford. But he never complained. His coworkers said he always smiled. He always asked about their families. He always volunteered to cover the night shifts that nobody else wanted. He was invisible to most people. Rich people like Sarah and Richard walked past him every day without seeing him. To them he was just part of the background. Just another poor person working a thankless job. But Daniel had a heart bigger than anyone realized. When he saw Sarah in danger, he didn't think about his own life. He didn't think about Maya needing him. He only thought, someone is in danger. I have to help. Now he lay in a hospital bed, fighting for his life, while his daughter waited with strangers, terrified and alone. Sarah visited the hospital every day. She sat with Maya in the waiting room. She brought the little girl food, bought her new clothes, made sure she was okay. But mostly she just listened. Maya told stories about her father. Happy stories that made Sarah's heart ache. Daddy always says we're a team, Maya said one day. When I'm sad about Mommy, he tells me she's watching over us from heaven. He says Mommy sent me the best daddy in the world to take care of me. She was right, Sarah whispered. On the 5th day, Daniel opened his eyes. Sarah was sitting beside his bed when it happened. She had been there for hours, keeping vigil, unable to leave. Maya, Daniel whispered, his voice weak. She's safe, Sarah said immediately. Your daughter is safe. She's with my assistant right now, getting lunch. She's been so brave, Daniel. Just like her father. Daniel tried to sit up but gasped in pain. I need to get back to work. She needs me. You need to rest, Sarah said firmly. Don't worry about work. Don't worry about money. Just focus on getting better. I don't take charity, Daniel said, his voice gaining strength despite his weakness. I work for what I have. I take care of my daughter. I don't need rich people feeling sorry for me. His words stung, but Sarah understood. Pride was all he had left. Dignity was his armor against a world that had taken so much from him. It's not charity, Sarah said carefully. You saved my life. You took bullets meant for me. That's a debt, Daniel. A debt I need to repay. I don't want your money, Daniel said stubbornly. I just want to go home to Maya. But going home wasn't going to be simple. Over the next week, as Daniel slowly healed, the reality of his situation became clear. The bullets had damaged his lungs and shoulder. He would never be able to do physical work again. The security guard job required him to stand for long hours, to potentially defend people. His body couldn't do that anymore. The medical bills were catastrophic. Over $300,000. Daniel had no insurance beyond basic emergency coverage. He would be in debt for the rest of his life. And worst of all, child services was asking questions. Could a severely injured man with no income properly care for an 8-year-old daughter? Maybe Maya should be placed in foster care while Daniel recovered. When Daniel heard this, he broke down. Sarah was visiting when the social worker delivered the news. She watched as this strong, proud man, who had faced death without fear, collapsed in tears. Please, Daniel begged. Don't take my daughter. She's all I have. I'll figure something out. I'll find work. I'll do anything. Just don't take Maya from me. The social worker, a tired woman named Janet, sighed. Mr. Martinez, I understand. But we have to think about what's best for Maya. You can't work. You have no family support. No savings. How will you care for her? I'll find a way, Daniel insisted. I always find a way. Sarah stood up. He won't be alone. My husband and I will help. Janet shook her head. Mrs. Chin, that's kind, but temporary charity won't satisfy the court. Mr. Martinez needs stable, long-term support. He needs a job he can do despite his injuries. He needs a safe home. He needs to prove he can provide. After Janet left, Daniel stared at the wall in silence. Sarah had never seen such defeat in someone's eyes. I failed her, Daniel whispered. Maria asked me to take care of Maya before she died. She made me promise. And I can't even do that. I'm useless now. Broken. You're not broken, Sarah said fiercely. You're a hero. And heroes deserve better than this. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Daniel and Maya. About how one act of violence had destroyed a good man's life. About how unfair the world was, that she lived in a mansion with more rooms than she could count, while Daniel couldn't even keep his daughter because he had nothing. She thought about Daniel's words, "I don't take charity," and she realized something important. Daniel didn't want handouts. He wanted purpose. He wanted to work, to provide, to maintain his dignity. So Sarah came up with a plan. The next morning, she presented it to her husband. "Richard, I need you to hire Daniel Martinez." Richard looked up from his breakfast. "Sarah, the man is disabled. What job could he possibly do? He can think. He can speak. He can use a computer." Sarah sat down across from her husband. "Richard, Daniel worked construction for years. He knows how buildings work. He's smart, I've talked to him. He's honest. He's loyal. You need someone to oversee safety compliance at all our construction sites. Someone who actually cares about the workers, who understands their lives. Daniel is perfect for that job." "It's not charity," Sarah continued before Richard could object. "It's good business. How many accidents have we had this year? How many lawsuits? We need someone who genuinely cares about safety, not just checking boxes. Daniel is that person." Richard was quiet for a long moment. "You really care about this man?" "He died for me," Sarah said simply. "He gave up everything for a stranger. How can I do less for him?" Richard nodded slowly. "Okay. But he has to actually do the work. No special treatment. If he can't handle the job, he's out." "Deal?" Sarah agreed. When she told Daniel about the job offer, his reaction surprised her. He didn't immediately accept. Instead, he asked careful questions. What were the responsibilities? What were the hours? Could he still pick Maya up from school? "I need to be there for my daughter," Daniel explained. "She's been through so much. I can't leave her with babysitters all day. I need a job where I can still be her father." Sarah worked with Richard's HR department to create a flexible schedule. Daniel would work from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. He could work from home 2 days a week. And the salary, $60,000 a year, was enough to support Maya comfortably. It still wasn't charity. Daniel would have real responsibilities. He would inspect construction sites, review safety protocols, train workers, and report directly to the CEO. It was a real job that needed to be done. But it was also a lifeline. With a steady income and proof of employment, Daniel could keep Maya. With flexible hours, he could still be the father she needed. With purpose and dignity, he could heal, not just his body but his spirit. Daniel cried when he accepted the job. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," Sarah said. "You gave me my life. Now let me give you yours back." But Sarah wasn't finished. She had learned that Daniel and Maya lived in a terrible apartment. 1 bedroom, barely heated, in a dangerous neighborhood. She couldn't let them go back there. "My husband and I own several properties," Sarah told Daniel. "One of them is a small house near Maya's school. 2 bedrooms, a yard, safe neighborhood. It's empty right now. You could rent it." Daniel's face hardened. "I can't afford." "Market rate," Sarah interrupted. $800 a month. That's what we normally charge." I checked. It was a lie. The house normally rented for $3,000 a month. But Daniel didn't need to know that. He needed to believe he was paying his own way. Slowly, carefully, Daniel nodded. "Okay. But I pay every month. On time. No exceptions." "Deal?" Sarah agreed. Over the next few weeks, something remarkable happened. Daniel moved into the house with Maya. He started his new job. And he proved to be exceptional at it. Daniel understood construction workers because he had been one. He knew which corners were cut, which safety measures were ignored, which workers were too afraid to speak up. He walked construction sites with a limp and a cane, but with absolute authority. "This railing isn't secure," he would say, pointing to something everyone else missed. "Someone could fall." "These workers aren't wearing proper equipment," he would note. "Get them what they need." "This supervisor is pushing the crew too hard," he would report. "They're exhausted." Exhausted workers make mistakes. Mistakes kill people. Richard was impressed. "Daniel saved us from 3 potential lawsuits already," he told Sarah one evening. "And worker morale has improved. They respect him because he respects them." You were right. This wasn't charity. It was good business. But for Sarah, it was more than business. Watching Daniel rebuild his life, watching Maya blossom in her new school and safe home, watching this father and daughter find happiness again, it healed something in Sarah's own heart. She had been born rich. She had married rich. She had never wanted for anything material in her life. But she had always felt empty inside, like something was missing. Now she understood what it was. Purpose. Meaning. Connection to real people living real lives. She started volunteering at the hospital where Daniel had almost died. She worked with victims of violent crime. She used her wealth and connections to help people, not with handouts but with opportunities. Jobs. Housing. Education. Richard noticed the change in his wife. "You're different," he said one night. "Happier." "I am," Sarah admitted. "For years I've just been drifting. Shopping. Attending parties. Doing nothing that mattered. But Daniel showed me something important. Life isn't about what you have. It's about what you give." 6 months after the shooting, Daniel had his first evaluation at work. Richard personally conducted it. "Daniel, your performance has exceeded all expectations," Richard said. "We're giving you a raise. $75,000 a year. And I'm promoting you to Director of Safety Compliance." Daniel stared at his boss in shock. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep doing what you're doing," Richard replied. "Say you'll keep making sure our workers go home safely to their families. Say you'll keep being the man who cares more about people than profits." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I will, sir. I promise." That evening, Daniel took Maya out for ice cream to celebrate. As they sat in the park watching the sunset, Maya smiled up at her father. "Daddy, are we rich now?" she asked. Daniel laughed. "No, sweetheart. But we're doing okay. Better than okay." "I think we're rich," Maya said seriously. "We have a house. You have a job you like. I have a good school. And we have each other. That's rich, right?" Daniel pulled his daughter close. "You're absolutely right, Maya. We're the richest people in the world. But peace never lasts forever." 3 years after the shooting, Daniel's past came back to haunt him. The men who had attacked Sarah were finally caught. They had been involved in organized crime, working for a loan shark who had lent Richard money years ago. Richard had paid back the loan, but the loan shark claimed he hadn't. The attack on Sarah had been meant as intimidation, a message to pay up or else. Now there would be a trial. And Daniel would have to testify. The defense lawyers were vicious. They attacked Daniel's character, questioned his motives, suggested he had staged the whole thing for money. "Isn't it convenient, Mr. Martinez," the defense attorney sneered, "that after saving Mrs. Chen, you suddenly had a high-paying job? A house? A comfortable life? Isn't it possible you were working with my clients, that this was all planned?" Daniel sat in the witness stand trying to stay calm. "I don't understand what you're saying. Those men tried to kill Mrs. Chen. I stopped them. I almost died. How is that convenient?" "Convenient for you?" the lawyer pressed. "You went from poverty to comfort. From a dead-end job to a career. All because of that night. Some might call that suspicious." Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She stood up in the courtroom, ignoring the judge's call for order. "How dare you?" Sarah said, her voice shaking with anger. "Daniel Martinez is the most honest man I've ever met. He didn't want our help. We had to force him to accept it. He's never asked for anything he didn't earn. He works harder than anyone in my husband's company. He's raised his daughter alone with more love and dedication than most parents with every advantage. And you stand there accusing him of corruption? You should be ashamed." The judge banged his gavel. "Mrs. Chen, please sit down." But Sarah's words had impact. The jury saw her genuine emotion. They saw Daniel's quiet dignity. They saw the truth. A good man had done a heroic thing and now people were trying to destroy him for it. The attackers were found guilty. They were sentenced to 20 years in prison each. After the trial, Daniel sat with Sarah outside the courthouse. "Thank you for defending me," he said quietly. "I should be thanking you," Sarah replied. "Again. You saved my life 3 years ago. You've been saving it ever since just by showing me what really matters." Daniel smiled. "You saved mine too, you know. When I was lying in that hospital, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything. But you and Mr. Ching gave me a second chance. You gave Maya a future. I'll never forget that." They sat in comfortable silence watching people walk by. Businessmen rushing to meetings. Parents picking up children. Homeless people looking for help. All of them each with their own stories, their own struggles. "I've been thinking," Sarah said. "Richard and I want to start a foundation. For people like you, hard-working people who fall on hard times through no fault of their own. People who need help but are too proud to ask for it. We want to call it the Daniel Martinez Foundation." Daniel turned to her in shock. "No. Absolutely not. I don't want my name on anything. I'm nobody special. That's exactly why your name should be on it, Sarah insisted. Because you represent everyone who works hard, loves their family, and never gets recognized. You're the hero nobody sees. Until something terrible happens. Then suddenly everyone realizes what you've been all along. Daniel was quiet for a long time. If you do this, it can't be about me. It has to be about helping people. Really helping them. Not just giving money. Giving opportunities. Dignity. Hope. That's exactly what we'll do, Sarah promised. The Daniel Martinez Foundation launched 6 months later. It provided job training, emergency housing, childcare assistance, and small business loans to working families in crisis. But more than that, it treated people with respect. It recognized that poverty wasn't a character flaw but a circumstance. It believed in people's potential, not their past mistakes. The foundation changed thousands of lives. But perhaps more importantly, it changed how the city thought about poverty and heroes. Daniel spoke at schools and community centers. He told his story, the struggle, the loss, the moment he chose to save a stranger, the slow climb back from the edge. He talked about dignity in work and the difference between handouts and hands up. I was invisible, Daniel would say. Nobody saw me. Nobody cared about the security guard working 60 hours a week to feed his daughter. But inside, I was the same as everyone else. I had dreams. I had love. I had worth. The only difference between me and the people who walked past me every day was luck. They had it. I didn't. That's all. His words resonated. People started seeing the invisible workers in their lives. The janitors. The security guards. The cashiers. The delivery drivers. They started saying thank you. They started asking names. They started seeing humans instead of functions. Maya grew into a remarkable young woman. She volunteered with the foundation, working with children whose parents were struggling. She remembered what it felt like to be scared, to not know if her father would survive, to fear losing her home. She used that empathy to help others. My dad taught me that anyone can be a hero, Maya would say. You don't need money or power. You just need to care about other people more than yourself. When Maya was 18, she gave a speech at the foundation's annual fundraiser. Daniel sat in the audience, proud tears streaming down his face. My father is my hero, Maya told the crowd. Not because he took bullets to save someone. That was brave, yes. But he's been taking bullets his whole life. The bullet of poverty. The bullet of grief. The bullet of discrimination. The bullet of being invisible. And he never gave up. He never became bitter. He kept loving. He kept working. He kept believing in a better tomorrow. She looked directly at her father. Dad, you showed me that true strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up, every single time, no matter how hard it is. You are the strongest person I know. The audience gave Daniel a standing ovation. But Daniel only had eyes for his daughter. She was everything Maria would have wanted her to be. Smart. Compassionate. Strong. She had gotten into a top university on a full scholarship. She wanted to be a social worker to help families like theirs. After the event, Richard pulled Daniel aside. I need to tell you something, Richard said. When Sarah was attacked, I was involved with some bad people. I made mistakes in business, took money I shouldn't have taken. I put my wife in danger. That's on me. He paused, his voice heavy with emotion. You saved Sarah's life. But you did more than that. You saved my life too. You showed me what real courage looks like. What real character looks like. I was so focused on making money, on winning, on being powerful. I forgot what actually mattered. You remembered? Even when you had nothing, you remembered. You gave me my family back, Richard continued. Not just by saving Sarah but by showing me how to be better. How to use my wealth for good. How to see people I'd been ignoring. You changed me, Daniel. You made me want to be the kind of man who deserves the blessings I have. Daniel clasped Richard's hand. You saved me too, sir. You and Sarah. You gave me and Maya a life. You gave us hope. We're even. No, Richard said firmly. We'll never be even. Because what you gave us can't be measured in money or jobs or houses. You gave us purpose. That's priceless. 10 years after the shooting, Daniel stood in the same parking garage where it had all happened. The Chen Corporation had placed a memorial plaque there. Read. On this spot, Daniel Martinez risked his life to save a stranger. His courage reminds us that heroes walk among us every day, often unseen, always essential. May we all strive to see the Daniel Martinezes in our lives and honor their quiet heroism. Daniel touched the plaque gently. He thought about that night, the fear, the pain, the certainty that he was dying. He thought about Maya's face when he woke up in the hospital. He thought about Sarah's kindness, Richard's opportunity, the chance to rebuild his life. So much had changed. He earned a good salary now. Maya was thriving in college. He had respect, purpose, a comfortable home. But the most important things hadn't changed at all. He was still Maya's father. He still worked hard. He still believed in doing the right thing. The foundation had helped over 10,000 families. It had changed laws, influenced policies, and shifted how the city thought about poverty. All because one security guard had refused to let an innocent woman die. Sarah joined him in the garage. She came here every year on the anniversary, a private ritual they shared. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Taking those bullets? Your body still hurts. You still walk with a limp. You gave up so much." Daniel smiled. "Regret saving your life? Never. Not for 1 second. Besides, I didn't give up anything. I gained everything. I just didn't know it at the time. You know what I've learned?" Daniel continued. "Life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about what you do with it. Those bullets could have made me bitter. Instead, they made me better. They led me to you and Richard. They led to the foundation. They led to Maya having opportunities one never dreamed of. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives are actually the beginning of the best chapters." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "You're a philosopher now." "No," Daniel laughed. "Just a dad trying to make sense of life. Trying to teach my daughter that even when things seem hopeless, good things can come. That people are basically kind if you give them a chance. That heroes aren't people who never fall, they're people who get back up and help others rise too." They stood together in silence, remembering that night. The violence. The fear. The blood. The moment one life intersected with another and changed everything. 20 years later, Daniel retired from the Chin Corporation. He was 52 years old. His hair was gray now, his body showing the accumulated wear of his hard life and old injuries. But his eyes still sparkled with kindness. His smile still came easily. Maya was a successful social worker now, married with 2 children of her own. She ran the Daniel Martinez Foundation, which had expanded to 5 cities and helped over 50,000 families. At Daniel's retirement party, everyone who mattered was there. Richard and Sarah. Maya and her family. Workers from the construction sites Daniel had made safer. Families the foundation had helped. Even some of the original paramedics who had saved Daniel's life that night. Richard gave a speech. 20 years ago, Daniel Martinez was just a security guard. Someone most people never noticed. But he had something money can't buy: character. When the moment came, he didn't hesitate. He gave everything to save my wife. And in doing so, he taught all of us what really matters in life. Sarah spoke next. "Daniel, you saved my life that night in the parking garage, but you've been saving lives ever since. Every worker who goes home safely because of your safety protocols. Every family the foundation helps. Every child who sees that poverty isn't permanent. You've touched thousands of lives. And it all started because you cared enough to act when someone needed help." Then Maya stood up. She was crying before she even started speaking. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking. "I was 8 years old when you almost died. I was so scared. I thought I'd lost you like I lost Mom. But you fought to come back to me. You always fought for me. You worked when you were exhausted. You smiled when you were in pain. You gave me everything even when you had nothing." She paused, wiping her tears. "People call you a hero because you took bullets. But I call you a hero because you took care of me. Because you showed me what love looks like. Because you never gave up even when it would have been easier to quit. You're my hero, Dad. Today and always." The room erupted in applause. But Daniel only saw his daughter. His miracle. His reason for everything. That night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel sat in his backyard. His grandchildren were sleeping inside. Maya and her husband were cleaning up. Sarah and Richard had finally left after hours of reminiscing. Daniel thought about his life. The struggles, the losses, the pain. But also the love. The second chances. The family he'd built from the ashes of tragedy. He thought about Maria, his first wife, who had taught him what love meant. He thought about Maya, his daughter, who had given him purpose. He thought about Sarah and Richard, who had seen his worth when he couldn't see it himself. And he thought about that moment in the parking garage. The split second when he chose to run toward danger instead of away from it. The moment that had defined everything that came after. People asked him sometimes, "Would you do it again? Knowing what you know now about the pain, the recovery, the struggle?" And Daniel always gave the same answer: yes. 1,000 times yes. Because that moment taught me who I really am. Not a victim. Not a charity case. Not invisible. But a man who loved enough to sacrifice. A father who showed his daughter that doing the right thing matters more than safety. A human being who chose compassion over self-preservation. That moment, Daniel would say, wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning. As Daniel sat under the stars that night, he smiled. He had been a poor construction worker. Then a struggling security guard. Then a hero. Then a leader. But underneath all those labels, he had always been the same person. A man who loved his daughter and tried to do right by others. The bullets had taken a lot from him. His health. His original career. Nearly his life. But they had given him something too. They had given him proof that when it mattered most, he had been brave. They had opened doors he never knew existed. They had connected him to people who changed his life. Most importantly, they had taught Maya, and thousands of other children through the foundation, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. That heroes don't wear capes or have superpowers. They wear security guard uniforms. They work 2 jobs. They love their kids. They do the right thing even when it's hard. Daniel Martinez closed his eyes and felt at peace. He had lived a good life. Not a perfect one. Not an easy one. But a good one. A meaningful one. A life that mattered. And really, what more could anyone ask for? The stars shone above him. Somewhere he felt Maria was watching. Proud of the man he had become. Proud of the daughter they had raised. Proud of the legacy he was leaving. I kept my promise, Maria, Daniel whispered to the night sky. I took care of our girl. And along the way, I helped take care of a lot of other people too. I hope that makes you proud. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, almost like an answer. Daniel smiled. He was home.